discussing UFOs and Vimanas on Zoom.
Tala Tala, we learn to be the realm of Mayadanava. Now, Mayadanava was known as the architect of the demons and known not only to build fascinating mansions, but also flying vehicles of Vimanas as well. So who knows where our imagination would take us into what we might expect to see in Tala Tala. This here, those who are watching the slideshow will see a cow there being beamed up by a flying saucer. Of course, this is a reference here to cattle mutilations or things which have actually been quite common in the United States. And the reason why I've included this is to show that if these things are real, if things is happening, if we are today being visited by Vimanas that are indeed stealing cattle or abducting human beings, even if there's a grain of truth in any of these things, then we can assume they are actually from the lower planets as opposed to the higher planets, because mutilating cattle and so forth of course, is not the activity of Vedic culture. I wanted to get into some personal, interesting, and very much relevant material here. This is actually Dr. David Clarke, as he looked when I knew him. He was actually a British scholar. He started off as a UFO enthusiast when he was a young man, but when he got educated and he started to get more and more skeptical, and then he became the British UFO academic debunker. So I actually got invited to BBC Radio 4 with him to discuss that. And so that was a fascinating day out with him. And he even mentioned me in his book, How UFOs Conquered the World. And what I'd like to do, of course, what he meant was they conquered the world through history of modern myth, through imagination, at least according to him. And of course, I opposed this view, or at least I represented the Vedic conception that this, at the very least, this is not actually modern myth. But on the back of his book, How UFOs Conquered the World, he actually quotes Arthur C. Clarke. Seldom has a subject been so invested with fraud, hysteria, credulity, religious mania, incompetence, and most other unflattering human characteristics. Stephen Hawking. It is possible that UFOs really do contain aliens, as many people believe, and the government is hushing it up. I wouldn't like to comment on that. But anyway, from David's book, I'm just turning into one of his chapters called Angels or Demons. Of course, most of his book is deriding all this UFO culture, and I guess Vimana culture as well. But I'd like to read you an interesting section which mentions his meeting with myself. After the Vatican's announcement, he writes, I was invited to debate at the religious nature of the UFO syndrome with a panel of experts on the BBC Radio 4 Sunday programme Beyond Belief. When I arrived at the studios on the Oxford Road in Manchester, I found two other guests waiting for me in the green room. David Wilkinson is a theologian who holds a PhD in physics and is a member of the Royal Astronomical Society. David told us in the interview he thought it was possible that other life exists elsewhere in the universe, but he believed most of this would be in the form of single-celled bacteria. Intelligent life, he added, is much more of a difficult question and enters into the realm of theology and not science. But that's coming from a Christian, which is kind of interesting. And then the rest of that section just goes on about, of course, in Christianity, where you have the references to the sons of God who saw the daughters of men, or of course there's a story of Ezekiel, or there's Elijah who was carried off in a chariot of fire. David Clarke then adds, the third guest was Radha Mohandas from Bhaktivedanta at the Hare Krishna Temple in London. Although he shared Wilkinson's view of Earth as a special place in the universe, as of course Christians do also, Radha believed there are many other inhabited planets and planes of existence. We follow the Vedic scriptures of ancient India, and when we delve into those writings, we find numerous references to intelligent humanoid life throughout the universe. Our holy books tell the story of a cosmic battle between demigods and the demoniac forces. They continue their battle with the earth in the middle of that battle through the realm of consciousness and morality. Radha said the demigods and demons of Hinduism were another type of life form in our universe that is beyond our senses and beyond detection of present-day science. We would say that the UFO phenomena seems to be quite fundamental to the Vedic paradigm, of which is a multi-dimensional universe. Over coffee, we agreed the UFO syndrome was fundamentally about finding meaning in the universe. All right. Okay. I just wanted to touch a little bit more on how Vimanas may indeed relate to the modern day scenario. Between 1906 and 2014, the reported, remember the word here is keyword is reported UFO sightings. And a skeptic like David Clark would say, well, here you have a cultural thing going on. United States, of course, all over the United States and all over Britain and Belgium. And the rest of the world is pretty sparse, which is really interesting. Why is that? If you've got aliens coming from different dimensions or coming from underneath the earth, or flying light years across space, why are they only appearing in America, North Europe and Ireland? Why is this? Is it simply because there's more opportunity or more of a cultural encouragement to report UFO sightings?